coming up?
Really, think about what your ideal day looks like.
Okay.
What you really want your ideal day to look like. And once you've got a fairly clear enough picture, do whatever it takes to create that. So some of the goals need to step back a little bit to allow one or two to shine. Yeah. Oh gosh, the signs they can be very in different combinations as well. But
Yes.
usually it starts off with
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Kieran, and with me, all the way over in Melbourne, Victoria, is Natalie. Natalie Tran. How are you?
So well. Thank you so much for having me, Kieran. I've been really looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, me too. I've actually been very looking forward to this chat. When I asked you to come on, you were actually one of the first few people that I actually wanted to have on in a while to just sit down and just have a conversation with you. It's I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's get going. I'm excited. Yeah, I've been watching you sort of like on LinkedIn and thinking, oh, like it would be so good to like part of our work on LinkedIn is also to get to know people, right? So it's
Yes.
great. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's exactly actually where we met. I think because we have a couple of mutual connections. I mean, I know my previous guest, Stephanie, as well, but also Gunnar, who we know. I mean, I know Gunnar because I met him at a couple of networking events as well. And yeah, when I had a chance to speak with him, he gives nothing but high praises and whatnot. And so yeah, just very, very excited about the chat. So for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us who is Natalie and whatnot.
Okay. I'll make sure I don't, hang out here for like 10 minutes in this intro because it's been but I started off as a chartered accountant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I've been working a while in accounting, was very unhappy. Not because I don't like I'm good with numbers, great with all of that. I just found very quickly in at Deloitte, 3 years in after doing my charter, that I wasn't that happy. And
Mm,
so that began, my mind started to wander a little bit, but I still sort of said, let's give it a good go in
yep.
finance. And I sort of tried laterally many different things, ended up working for Goldman Sachs Asset Management. That was my
Oh
last
wow.
job. Yeah, in the institutional asset management space. So very, very big role. And made it all the way to executive director. And
Wow.
then I quit, I resigned. And that
Wow.
began my journey into coaching and there's lots of layers to it, but I am pretty much now, I started up as a career coach, very like full on career coach in that pure space. But as things go and as your career and business progresses, I've now really loved taking people to transition into like really aligned chapters for their lives. And that aligned piece might be a side hustle to get into a business, could be straight into a business, could be on a board, could be designing a portfolio career. So I have had so much practice with the whole career coaching that the last 3 to 4 years has been around helping people to transition to their next chapter, which aligns with them perfectly. But that's me in a very nutshell. So you see that I reference finance a lot in a lot of my LinkedIn posts for that
Yep.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, you also because when I also did a bit of research as well, it also says there on your bio as well that you're also like obviously mindset coaching, but also you do like a lot of other fitness as well. I think yoga, Pilates, as well. How did you, I mean, like, what made you sort of want to do like all those other sorts of
Oh,
ones there? Was it just sort of like in the heat of the moment where you just sort of say, you know what, I actually like this, I probably could teach it, or is it more like you just sort of fell into it, or what?
yeah. I wish I had an answer that was like, oh, I woke up and I want it to be, let's just go for it. But I think that stemmed from my absolute love for teaching. And when I
Yep.
actually drew that line in the sand and said, no more finance, do not go back. I actually had a couple of failed attempts to transition.
Yep.
And conditions weren't right, and fear got the most of me, and I went back into finance as well. And so when I really did it the second time, I decided to go all in, no fear. And I love teaching, and I wanted, because I was so burnt out in the corporate world, that I said, I want to really learn firsthand what it feels like to feel well.
Yep.
And that was my journey into the Pilates and yoga world. And I actually became a personal trainer with the Australian Institute of Fitness as well. And what I learned so much is that coaching is everything. And I
Yep.
bring all of that into my world of coaching. And so it really allowed me. And the ironic thing is, I thought it was going to be like a bit of fun, a bit of learning, fitness and all of that. But it actually became a great way for me to earn money in building my coaching business.
Wow. Wow. I mean, like, yeah, you said something there which sort of just sort of rang a bit of ear to me, which was the fear of wanting to leave your industry, like of finance first. There are a lot of people there who, when they go into a job or when they go into a profession, first few years they think, oh yeah, it's good, or it's not, and then after a while it's like, nah, do I really want to do this? Or it's not what they sort of anticipated for it for them to be. But my question there is, what would you say to someone there if they are looking for a bit of a change, and if there is that sort of fear gap? Because like you put like so many years, like years at university and all that there into sort of one area, but then you realize it's not, like it might not be for you, or it's not what you expected. Like, what would you sort of, if someone came up and asked you that there might be suffering, or they might have a little bit of fear and want to have a bit of a transition?
Oh, great question. Well, that is exactly what I help people with. And a lot of the time, in our first couple of sessions, when we do work together, or they ask me, even like in passing at a conference or whatever, I always ask them to go back to the basics and really spend time to get to know yourself.
Yep.
And I'm always someone that loves to work, loves to be productive, love to get, do really well, perform and all of that. And I think sometimes that is something that you have to untrain if you are a certain type, So, I mean, in the investment world and the accounting world, the finance world is we just keep performing, right?
Yep.
And you don't do enough of that reflection. So really get to know yourself and really, think about what your ideal day looks like. What you really want your ideal day to look like. And once you've got a fairly clear enough picture, do whatever it takes to create that. If it means sacrificing a year at a lower salary, or like what I did, I actually, worked really hard during transition because I had 2 young kids. We were building a house, wrong time to build. I would never recommend that to anyone, right? While you're in transition, because your salary does get impacted while you're building, right?
Yeah, of course.
So my answer is really get to know yourself, spend time knowing yourself, liking yourself, and almost forgiving yourself for any of the bad decisions you've made as well. Because while you're in reflection mode, sometimes we get really harsh on ourselves and go,
yes,
damn, should have done that earlier, should have done this, should have done that, why did I do that? And we get really harsh. So a lot of the reflection work I do with people is like really bring them back to just being really compassionate with themselves. Because I know that I transitioned probably 5 years later than I should have.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, you actually sort of said there that for people there that are very harsh on themselves, I'm someone there that always is very, very hard on himself and whatnot. I mean, even when people sort of say, oh, don't really sort of have a go at him because he'll because I'll be kicking myself 10 times a lot more than what other people say. But I think also when you're in transition as well, you know,
Yeah.
trying to make, trying to sort of, when you're in that transition phase, um, getting all that doubt out of your head there, because you know, and just sort of pick and stick with that, saying that, yeah, you know what, I've decided to sort of transition because, you know, because like, as you sort of said, there was the wrong time there, because it does affect your salary, with the, you know, because you're trying to
Yeah.
build a house there, that
It's
you're
never
probably
the right
thinking,
time. That's the thing.
yeah, well, that
Yeah.
is true, because you're probably thinking, oh, or well, people might be thinking, oh, maybe I should go back and, you know, and whatnot. I, but I do think that, you know, what you said there, when don't be hard on yourself on what you've done, and also with what you're doing. Just make sure that you at least acknowledge it, and just sort of say, okay, in hindsight, maybe I could have done this here a little bit earlier, but I'm here now. I can't change the past. I can only look forward to the future.
Yeah, that's it, Kieran. Like, be super kind to yourself. Be compassionate. Go, this is where I am right now, and it is not too late. There's no
Yeah,
such thing. There's no
that's
such
true.
thing at all, right? And but it takes time. The thing is, I've helped so many people transition, and it's the same thing over and over again. I hear people go, "Oh, I wish I had done that. I should have done that course," because I went through all of it. So I know, and this is where you know, I hear the signals, I hear the sounds, you know, that people are sort of like talking about themselves and all of that, and I really help them. So the initial part of the transition process could literally be the most important. If you don't do that part right, you could
Mm,
either be rushing through it to get out of something, and then realizing I hate it down the track, and you know, all of that. So I ensure that my program, when I coach others, that I really like get them to get to know themselves, because that's so important, because we can pivot and all of that down the track. I mean, I've
yep.
pivoted right from pure career coaching into a bit of business coaching and transition coaching, but it's so important to know yourself, and it comes from what I call, you know, a bit of your unfair advantage is,
Yep.
you know, really know your skills, know what you love, know what drives you,
Mm-mm.
and then also what makes you you. And that is where you add all of that together, put it into a giant Venn diagram, and that thing in the middle is
Mm.
literally your unfair advantage. Plus, you throw in the network as well.
that that there's true. I mean, I'm also one of those people that's also like, okay, as you sort of said there, know your strengths and know what you're good at. But I'm also someone that goes, okay, know what you're not good at, but
Yeah,
also know what you're not good at, because at least that way there you can. So if you are, let's say you are starting a business and whatnot, you sort of already know your weaknesses, and you can sort of say, okay, I'm not good at this. I can go and find someone, or I can find someone there that, you know, meets sort of this criteria to sort of try and work with them, so that's that way they can balance me out, or at least in the workplace, or at least somewhere like that there. So that's sort of something there as to which sort of what I sort of go about there, which is like, obviously know your strengths, and know what you're good at. But if you can know your weaknesses as well and know what you're not good at, it can also sort of, one, it can help challenge you to try and learn new things, but it can also sort of give you a sort of way of sort of saying, you know what, I don't know this. I'm not good at this. I got to try and, in other words, fill in the gap and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff there.
love that. There's so many things there. What you've just said. It's the interesting thing is that people actually can overuse or underuse their strengths, and then
Oh,
it
okay.
becomes a weakness as well.
Okay. So in what way would you say of underusing or underutilizing their strength? What would you
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of say?
definitely. Yeah. So I'll take you a step back. So before
Yep.
we talk about doing, you know, learning about your strengths and all of that, I do a lot of profiling, and that's what I
Hmm.
studied when I transitioned to coaching. I learned, I reckon, about 7 or 8 different profiling tools, so
Oh,
that I
wow.
can use one of the, you know, the best ones to help my clients really understand themselves, like their strengths, all of that we spoke about before. And one of the profiles that I get my clients to do is around knowing when you underuse or overuse. And I'll give you an example. One of mine is the virtue behind the strength is wisdom. and the love of learning is one of my strengths.
Oh,
I
okay.
love learning, right?
Yep.
I would spend hours and hours reading, learning, doing courses, spent lots of money doing different courses and stuff. Now, the thing is, if you underuse that, then it's not good, because that's your strength. You can learn
Yep.
quickly and apply it and help your clients. If you underuse that, right? So if you underuse it, then, as a coach, it's not amazing. It becomes a weakness, right? Then you're not learning
Yep.
the most up-to-date things about LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. If you overuse it, it means that you may never execute. You're just learning. Can you see that?
Ah,
You're just spending hours and hours and just learning, and
yeah.
actually never implementing anything.
It's a fine line. It's almost like a fine line to where you've just got to say, okay, I've learned this much. I've now got to try and put it into practice.
Yeah,
But you've also got to just try and keep learning to be able to
yeah,
put into that practice. It's a very fine line as to the way as to how
yeah.
you
So can
just
you
sort of
see what
said
I
that there.
mean now?
Yeah,
Being
I can
overuse your
definitely
strength.
I can definitely see what you mean there. And I can definitely see that there because it's like a definite fine line. Um, you said there, in regards to transition, how much would you say that the environment around you, so like the people around you, or even just sort of like your office, or even just overall like your workspace for where you do like your stuff there,
Yeah,
how important would you say that there is while you're transitioning? Because obviously, if you are transitioning, the people around you is going to be very, very important, because they're going to have to be very, very supportive of you, or even just sort of the space, depending on where you're working. You could be working either at home, or you might be able to have a small little office space or somewhere. So, how important is the environment around you, and can that sort of affect? I won't sort of say your performance, but can it sort of affect the way as to how you transition quickly or slowly, or or something?
yeah. No, it's such a great question. I think of my environment as the physical space
Yep.
and also the proximity to people. So
Okay.
it comes hand in hand in some ways, right? Because
Yep.
first of all, the physical space is so important. You need space where you can do deep work,
Hmm.
however that looks like for you. Like, for example, even my daughters, they love to go to the library to study, right?
Hmm.
For me, I love my own home, my own desk, where I know everything, where everything is.
Yes.
I don't need to be, in that space to focus. Like, I just need my own things. I was never good at hot desking anyway, back in the corporate
Yes.
days as well. Like, I just love my own stuff. That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. I think
Um,
I'm like that there as well, where
yeah,
everything's, you just know where everything is.
yeah,
So if you need a pen, you can grab a pen, you need a
yeah.
pencil, or if you
And
need to print something.
exactly. And and it's efficient, and you will set up your time, block your calendar, know which physical space you'll be in for the day,
Yeah.
right? So it's very important, because it does really impact the creativity and the productivity as well, depending on your own preference. And then the second part around that environment is the people. So again, ensure that I call it having expanders around you when you are trying to grow something. I
Okay.
just coined that term, very loosely. In that an expander is someone who loves to grow and learn like you, who's in the same sort of like trajectory at this moment in their world, right?
Yep.
That you can actually communicate with, have a chat with when you're down a little bit and things like that. So have the ability to do all of that. And it's important that they are, yes, you've got your coaches who are a few steps ahead. So they play a certain role, and mentors, but then there's also the important part about having peers that are very similar to you,
Yes.
yeah, in terms of growth and all of that, right? Because if you say like, you just say your circle is someone, and you expect, you meet someone on LinkedIn who's got 500,000 followers, and you want to connect to them, and they sometimes run out of spaces to connect with you, and for so
Mm,
many reasons, right? And you go, oh, I wish I had that person, but not really. You would maybe not really be able, they won't be able to connect with you unless they're coaching you, right? It's
Yeah.
a different kind of connection. Can you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
great to have your like expanders who are a few steps ahead, those that are a little bit along the same trajectory. That's not the exact. And then also people who are up and coming as well, that
Mm.
basically your clients and all that, that you are within your circle, because we know that friends who are on a different path and all of that, or family members, you can't really, it's very difficult to like
Yes.
get that conversation or that, sort of like that brain sort of like to work, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yes, I actually completely agree with that because um recently this is actually where we met. This is where I actually met uh Gunnar. I actually met him at a networking event at Open Coffee, and
Yeah.
just the people there who I've actually been very, very close friends with. One of them who was a previous guest in Peter and Raghav, you can actually have a very good conversations, and they also feel very understanding when you have like those conversations, because like they're either doing the exact same thing or they're on the same trajectory. You can be a lot more open with them than whereas if you
They
say
get it. They get it.
yeah, yeah,
You don't have to
yeah,
say much, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because yeah, whereas like with like a couple of other friends there, where you have like those types of conversations with them, they sort of go, oh, okay, so when's the next step? And if you say, oh, it's going to take a while, they say, oh, well, hurry it up and all that sort of stuff. Or they're asking you sort of questions there where it's very hard to sort
Yeah,
of articulate and
that's
and
right.
whatnot. So I completely agree with that you need to have people there that around your circle to be able to have like those conversations there, to be able to
Yeah.
sort of say, yes, I'm going through this, and be able to sort of understand them, because like they are going through the exact same thing as you are,
Yeah.
and that's where I think that they can help, as you say there, expand your horizons. I think when you also have
Yeah.
people there who are, as you sort of said there, ahead of you, same level as you, but also below you, I think that when you also look at people there who are up and coming, you can be able to sort of get their way of thinking, and it can also help grow your
And
mind.
they can grow very fast too. People grow at
Yes,
very different rates as well, right? So this is where
exactly.
learning from, yeah, of course you learn from the big players, because it's obvious, because they've done the work. And but again, it doesn't mean that they are so successful and ahead of you that everything they do
Mm.
will, yes, success leaves clues and all of that, but you still need to take what you need to take from certain, things, because not everything they do will work for you, as an example, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course, and also when you also look at it from this area as well is as technology changes, as like new generations, I mean, like when they're heading into an AI age, as so people that are up and coming now will probably have now used AI a lot more. So which means if you are heading into a world of AI, it'd be good to also have a chat with those people there who are up and coming, to sort of pick their brains about AI and to just sort of see, but also just sort of other things there as well. So I completely understand, because that there has actually personally myself, I've actually experienced that. I would say potentially in the last 6 to 8 months,
Mm,
that's something that's definitely I think really something there to which I've actually noticed as soon as you sort of um, said
yeah.
as soon as you sort of said that there. Um, so Oh well, you actually sort of answered that question there, to which I was actually just about to ask and whatnot. But um, confidence and whatnot. This is actually something here to which I think a lot of people, especially when they're in transition,
Yeah.
like they sometimes show there that they might not, like, with that fear. Going back to what we sort of said there,
Mhm.
with that fear, there's got to be a bit of confidence when it comes into that transition. How would you how would you go about building up the confidence? So like especially when you're in transition, how would you go about being confident? Or is it just a matter of just sort of saying, look, I've made the decision, no point looking at the past, whatever happens, just keep going forwards. Because like there are some people like myself who I know for a fact that when they do one or two wrong things, or if they make one or two wrong moves, it can dint
Mhm.
their confidence. It can
Yeah.
it really does dint their confidence. So how would you go about with something like that, with a confidence sort of
Yeah. Such a
thing, as
great
they're in transition?
Yeah, such a great question. I think I even did a little video on it as well. You might have seen. I view confidence as like a bit of a it's not linear,
Yeah.
it's a wave at the start,
Yes.
but as you keep going, it then starts to become more linear. But it doesn't mean that you don't get knocked back as well, even when
Mm.
you're like have achieved whatever success goals you have. And so confidence, I actually love the word conviction more than
Okay.
confidence. I feel
Okay.
like confidence can bring up that funny because people have overused it, like fake it till you make it, be confident, especially in career coaching. Like you got to go in and be confident and do,
Yeah.
and I feel like when you say those words, people can bring on another version of them,
Mm.
which I think can cause a lot of anxiety and panic as
Yes.
well. Oh my God, does that mean in interviews I have to talk a bit louder and I have to be someone that I'm not a bit more, because confidence has those connotations, right?
Mm.
So when I teach confidence, I'm a little bit more sort of like really listening, tuning into that person and
Okay.
go, how does convincing me sound like to you? What does having conviction mean? If you're in an interview and they ask you, what are your three strengths, Peter, for example, like what does conviction, you can be a little bit more, I don't like the word introverted or extroverted, but you can be a bit more, more a less introverted, a less extroverted person, but you can still convey that conviction. Can you see what I'm saying? Like you can
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's about bringing up your, a bit of character, a bit of what you believe in,
Yep.
and all your mastery. Because remember, when you are confident, there is mastery.
Mm.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like what you just sort of said there, being able to sort of convince someone, and if you put on a different persona and all that there, because my mentor, when I first went to a networking event, he said to me, just be yourself. But he always said to me, focus on the relationship first. Don't
yeah,
focus on and all that stuff there will happen later. You know, the business opportunities, and all that sort of stuff there will happen later. Just be yourself, because that way there it can build the relationship, because the relationship there is the most important thing out of a networking event. And you can't build a relationship if you can't build a relationship unless you be yourself, because if you're putting up a persona, people won't actually sort of know the real you. So that's where
yeah,
the ways how you just sort of said that there, with that conviction, to be able to convince someone that what they've got, even if it's in an interview, or even if it's at a networking event, or even if it's trying to win over a client, or to be able to, if you are mentoring someone, to be able to say to your mentee, stick with this. This is the way how to go, because this stuff has happened before. If you can't convince them, well, it's gonna be a
that's
long road ahead.
right. Yeah. And competence builds confidence, right? And
Yeah.
competence means you would have had to do something, learn something, practice it, and all of that. It comes with the mastery of something. And interviewing is mastery. So
Mm.
if you feel like you're not confident in interviews because you're out of practice, then practice. Like I
Yeah.
will role play and role play and role play till it sits well with that person, like in answering what are my weaknesses, for example, or in answering questions, how do you deal with conflict and all of that. Because if you then do that air of confidence that doesn't have substance,
Yep.
it still sounds very hollow and people will see through it anyway. That's why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that yes, I mean, like that is true, because like, I mean, that there are people there where they just sort of say, like I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, there's this old saying that you can sort of tell if someone's being genuine or not. So like, I mean, whereas if you have that conviction, you can actually be real and show, like, yes, like this is exactly who you are, then it can actually just sort of, one, it builds that relationship, and it builds a lot more it builds that relationship a lot more closer going forward. I was actually I actually saw I can't remember if it was a couple of weeks ago or whatnot, but I did remember seeing a post that you actually put on LinkedIn. Actually, it was about goal setting,
Yeah.
actually. It was actually about goal setting. And I think there was like all these plates, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about goal setting. I was actually very fascinated about that there because I actually read a bit of the post and I was like going, wow, and that was just one bit there. To this is actually something here which I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Can you sort of how would you go about with the goal setting there? Because I just found that very fascinating as to how it's, I think it was putting, like trying to implement the goals, not just
Yeah.
have one big goal, but implement them all throughout the day, or something
Yeah.
like that there.
Was it about not spinning every single plate? Was that what I was
Yes,
saying?
yes,
Because
that was the post I
yeah,
saw.
they'll come
That
crashing down.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
that was the one that I actually saw, and I was just like, "Oh wow, this was a really good this was a really good post." And as I was just getting some questions, it just sort of came back to me. I was like, "going, oh yes, the goal setting. I have to ask that."
Yeah, and you know what, Kieran, I am someone who has a lot of interests. I'm someone that, when people talk about being multi-passionate, that's
Yep.
me. And so over the years, I have had to learn to goal set really well. And then, like,
Yes.
you're not gonna, like I say, for those people that I meet, and I recognize that in them, it can be very overwhelming when
Mm.
you've got 1,000 things going and you want to achieve this and this and this. And I always talk about sometimes the some goals need to be like backup singers for a little while,
Yes.
right? If you think about a stage, there can only be one main singer or two if there's a
Yep.
duet, right? But some of the plates or some of the goals need to step back a little bit to allow one or two to shine,
Mm.
the main singers.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything. You've just got a whole row of backup singers.
Yeah.
Can
So
you
it's
see
almost
that?
so
Yeah.
it's almost kind of like to put a sports twist on it, it's almost like you got to be a team player. Like at some points during the game, player X is probably going to get the ball and he's probably going to be able to kick the goals, or he's going to have a couple more touches than you, and you just got to sort of sit back and let this player shine a bit more, and you'll get your turn eventually during the course of the game or throughout the season
Yeah,
or
let,
whatnot.
let let that person do their thing. If they're a striker, let them,
Yep.
right? If you're more defense, do your thing, right? Get really good at it. Yeah.
Yep. So
So
how would you go about like planning with the goal setting and all that there? So like would you break it up a lot more? So for example, if someone was to say, I want to get, I don't know, gets a take this podcast for example. I wanted to get this up to say 10,000 views or a million views or whatnot. I want to then start XYZ. I want to do D, E, and F. Like, would you break it up into smaller pieces, or
absolutely,
do
like
you, or
milestone it out. Like what is it, and
yep,
study those. If that's the goal, study those who've made that goal. And you can sometimes, because social media these days is so public, right? You can sometimes
yes,
go back to some old posts and see how they've done it, and what they're currently posting as well. But
yes,
yes, your goals, just say, and just to take that example you gave, if podcasting is your number one goal this year, and you've decided out of all the goals and it's going to be the main singer,
mm-hmm,
then you have to allow it more time on your calendar.
mm-hmm,
It all has a sort of a domino effect. If you've decided that, allow more time on the calendar, allow more time to learn about it, to meet more people around all of that.
mm,
And doesn't mean you can't do other things that you have on your goals list, but make sure that you allow sufficient attention,
yep,
like attention mind wise and time wise and all of that, so that you can master it. It comes back to that, right? If you talk to
yep,
anyone who's done something, they've kind of mastered it,
yes.
whether they have a coach or not. Even given the coach has given them guidance, but it's still them. They've done it,
Mm,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
I think it goes back to that old adage with this with skills. Like if you do 1 hour, you're not going to be good at it compared to someone there who's done thousands of hours on it. They're like someone who's done thousands of hours. It takes thousands of hours to learn something. as a skill and whatnot. So obviously if you just do 1 hour, you're not going to be good. So that's why you just have to keep practicing and
Yeah.
putting more time into that sort of skill.
Yeah. And just in case I haven't answered the question,
Go, sir.
every year around October is a great time. Don't wait till even September, October. Like I use Notion, and I
Yep.
would do a brain dump of everything that I would like to do in the next 12 months to 24 months, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
even beyond that. And I would do a brain dump on Notion. And then from there, I would then start to look at the top 5, the top 3, right? And then look at how maybe some can work well with another one. For example, for me, the podcast, I love my podcast. It has its reason, it has its place in my own ecosystem. But like I am not I'm not out there to like grow millions of people, like even though
Yeah.
that is of course the aim always. But for me, the aim, the real goal is for me to help my clients in my
Yeah.
business, right? So see how you then know that if you
Yep.
don't grow in your podcast to thousands and thousands, it's because it's a secondary or third goal, and that's
Okay.
okay. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you
that
yeah
yeah, that the way it's how you sort of put it there, like that actually makes so much sense, and it makes things a lot more clearer because like obviously, you can have multiple other goals as well. I mean, like whether it's, business or um um personal, or if you want to lose weight or whatever, or if you want to sort of start a new business or whatever. But putting one of those goals, the main goal, at the forefront, as to what you sort of said, they're taking the singer option, taking the singer route, making that there as
yeah
the main singer and letting the others just be the backup. You can still obviously switch them as like during the course of the year and whatnot, and focus on
yeah
ones at different times. But I think that having one main goal, I think that there, one, it will sort of keep you sort of switched on and say, okay, yep, I can focus and all that there. Because one thing there, which what I've sort of noticed, is that if you have multiple goals, by the time you get towards the end of the year, you might not have achieved any of them. You might not have achieved any of the goals because you're too busy
yeah
focusing and you're scatterbrained off all these different other goals, of all
yeah
of them.
yeah no, that's spot on. And then once I've picked the goals,
Yep.
I then and you might have heard of Gary Keller. Like he wrote a book called the one thing, right? So
Yep.
then it just say you then have the goal that you want, right? You then want to ensure that that sorry, I've just got you want to ensure that you have one goal, right? For each goal you have 3 priorities,
Yep.
and then each priority will have 5 strategic tasks.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like the ways that how you sort, yeah. I mean, it's almost like you're just sort of breaking it down. Like it's making it all very manageable, making it very easy. Which I think, like when people sort of say, "Oh yeah, look, you know what? I want to take a goal that's, oh, look, I want to lose weight." Well, how are you going to lose weight? Are you going to walk? You're going to go to the gym, or are you going to, eat more healthier and whatnot? Might be a combination of all three. Or but if someone says, "Oh, look, I'm going to try and do walking," okay, then, so how are you going to do your walking, et cetera, et
That's
cetera?
it.
So I
That's it.
think, whereas, so I think that the way as to how so I think the way is how goals, I think the ways how you sort of explain that there is so very well, articulated, because it's about breaking down the goals, and it's about trying to say, okay, um, how do we achieve it? How do we get to our end result? It's not about, okay, yeah, look, saying that, but how do we get to the end
Yeah.
result?
No, you got to get super dialed in. So, for example, just say the losing weight is just say
Yep.
you've got three goals, all
Yep.
right, and you want to spin three plates this year.
Yep.
So then, goal one's losing weight. Ensure that you have 3 priorities, and they can only be priorities if they help you achieve your goal. So you have to
Mm.
rewrite the priorities until it's right, and then each priorities will have 5 tasks. And again, the 5 tasks have to align to the priority that aligns to the goals. And then you divide it up into quarterly
Yep.
little milestones. and then
That's
you're doing the steps to get
Oh
the goal.
wow. Yeah, so yeah, I mean like the ways how you sort of pull out that there, it's obviously it's like a big business plan and whatnot, which is the way as to how it should be, but it's all nice and mapped out and you can just sort of tick it off and it will and the way as to how I would look at it as well is you'd feel a bit of a sense of achievement if you even if you tick off say
You
of the
need
five
that. Yeah.
that five purposes or that
And you
five
don't get
tasks.
sidetracked.
Yes,
You don't
exactly. I
get
mean like
sidetracked into doing a task that doesn't. So whenever you have to stop yourself, am I doing this task? It's not aligning to the
hmm,
priority, which means it
exactly.
won't align to the goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you get that tick, like ticking it off, saying, "Oh yeah, look, sense of achievement. Okay, move to the next one. I've done that. Tick to the next one." And it starts to feel good about yourself. And I was going back to just there as to what we were talking about earlier about building confidence. I think
Mm.
that there by doing it like that there, I think that there can help build someone's confidence a lot more. So I think that the way as to how you sort of said it, because as soon as I saw that on LinkedIn. I was just like going, this is something here to which if I ever got a chance to have her on my podcast, I would talk to her about because I absolutely love the way as to how you sort of said that and the way as to how it's gone because like people there when we all set goals, like we all can set goals, but it's how we go about trying to achieve them is something
Yeah.
completely different.
When it's just a list, it's not going to work. You got to
Mm,
dissect it. You got to set it up right. And again, don't have too many. Like I was saying, just spin, like only allow, a certain number to be the main singers for that period of time. And the main
okay.
singers can switch, right? So,
Yes, exactly,
so you know
exactly.
what I mean? So you might then go, oh, you know what? Like your goal, you might go, oh my God, I've got so much momentum from this episode in the podcast.
Mm,
In Q3, I'm going to make the podcast my main singer. And then you
yep.
go again, right? So
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
mean, yeah. And so there's a bit of flexibility with goal setting. You got to allow, sort of your surroundings and see what's happening. And if you've been unwell, again, be kind to yourself.
Yep.
You can't do certain things. So again, so you recalibrate and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just quickly, because I did actually sort of because we were actually talking for a couple of weeks before this recording. I actually saw a bit of because I actually saw I think the dossier that you sent me a couple of weeks or like last week and whatnot. After I'd already done up all my questions, I actually saw on your dossier that you had a lot of some of the clients there that you actually had. You had like the BHP, Telstra, and all that and all that there, probably like in the professional setting. One of the questions there, which I wanted to ask, I think early on, which was, are there any sort of similarities that you could sort of find, or even as a transition coach, like what are some of the similarities that like you could actually sort of find and just sort of say, okay, yes, look, it's this, or is it all, or are they all just obviously completely different? Because obviously the more clients you get, you pick some similarities, and whatnot. Can you sort of say if
Yeah.
there are anything similar that for people there who might want to transition or even in
Yeah.
business might be able to recognize different things or whatnot?
Yeah, I think my background's in finance. So of course I usually, do really well
Yep.
with the financial services sector because I know and those every organization love to have their team or their members or employees, so they call their members and their employees a great career development program, right? Whatever you want to call it. And I think I think every industry
Yep.
wants that for their employees and their members. So I think in terms of the thread is to ensure that what you offer
Mm-hmm.
aligns with individuals at the end of the day, right? And of course, your brand has to align with their brand as
Yeah.
well. But at the end of the day, when you are talking about the actual program and offer, you have to make sure that it aligns with what they want for their members and employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what industry, because I think at the end of the day, yes, I understand immediately financial services careers, what that looks like, and how to build. Say if you want to build a career in asset management or in some kind of lending and all that kind of stuff, I'll get it right away because they're the terms I'm so used to and all that, right? But say for telecommunications and all of that, of course, there's a bit of learning on my part, but fundamentally, all the mindset work, all the career work, all of those programs are suited to each individual, and that is okay across the board. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, because I was actually because like I was just sort of going over the dossier because I had a list of questions before that, and then I just added just so much more just from reading that. And one of them that you actually sort of said there was actually, I think in one of them actually sort of said there of finding the right person in the right position. The way is how I viewed that, and because to me that there's the way as to how I view it was, you know, you put a square peg in a square hole, you put a round peg in a round hole, and so forth. I got to ask, how do you find someone, or how could you say if someone is a square peg to put them in a square hole, or if they're a round peg to put them in a round hole? Because obviously, you know, like it depends on, as you sort of said there, the way as to how the business goes, the way how the branding is, and just the individual overall. But obviously, there are going to be people there that's going to be different experiences as well, and different
Yeah.
and with different levels of experience. You know, someone there who might be an up and comer and whatnot. How could you find the right, I'll say, peg to put him in the right hole, or
Yeah,
the
no,
right, yeah.
such a great question, and so many layers to that as well. I would say that just coming back to talking about your offers, what you're about, and you know, people, when you have a brand and you're building it, and people
Yep.
interact with you and all of that, right? You see that there is attraction as much as being repelled.
Mm,
And so I talk about that a lot. You know, you're not meant to be everyone's cup of tea, right? And
yes.
so you do attract very like-minded people,
Mm,
right? In the whole sort of the way you operate and all of that. And look, I always ensure that I do the chemistry or discovery course, qualify people, ensure that I can help them.
yep.
If it's completely not possible, then I would refer them on. Right. So, for example, someone is so super niche in an area that's so high up,
Mm,
say in telecoms, again, as an example, so high up, so niche, and I've never been there.
yep.
I then look at their, you know, I'll ask them for their goals and other kinds of, make sure that I can help them out. Right. And then
Mm,
I look at, is it because they're different to me? Is it because I think I don't have whatever it takes to deliver whatever it is they want? So there's a
yep.
number of layers to that. And yeah, and it's not really about ensuring that every client kind of sort of goes into different, you know, holes perfectly,
Yeah.
right? I think sometimes I have, like currently I have one client, I'm sure he won't mind me, I won't name who it is, but he's not in, he has a bit of a finance background, but he's in the IT world.
Okay.
And oh gosh, the fit is amazing. So he and
Yep.
I, you know, I'll challenge him on different things, the way he's developing his career, all of that. And it's never about putting someone into, you know, different holes like that, because you realize
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, we're so complex,
Yes.
and there's the industry level, there's the experience level. I must say though, you know, for example, like I was saying to you, if that goal is so high up that you've never ever done it,
Yep.
you might need to just take a step back and go really look at what that person is wanting you to help with,
Yep.
and be super honest. Maybe one of their goals is, can you connect me to so and so? And
Yes.
you don't have the connection, and you might say, okay,
Mm,
I can try, right? But
mm,
again, you know, it comes down to the individual goals like that, and I look at it from all angles. If that
you,
answers the question.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just sort of said something there, which is being able to sort of say, um, get on with your like-minded people. And I think it goes back to what we just sort of said earlier on, because like surrounding yourself there with the people there who, because like if you're a bubbly with energy type of person, like for me, I'm someone there that, you know, loves a conversation like we are having now, but also someone there who can be very loud. But I also like to be surrounded by people who who are more so in the calmer side. That the
Yeah,
way that
yeah,
I can also feed off their calm
mm,
energy as well. And I
yeah.
think that's just something there as to which what I actually sort of found. And and with that and when you sort of mentioned that, it just brought me back to that earlier on part of the conversation, which I actually sort of found very, very sort of fascinating, because it's like because it's almost sort of like when you are sort of, even if you are transitioning, because people might say, as you sort of said there, I can't introduce them to someone in their industry, and you have to sort of know if they're a good fit. It's kind of like what as to what me and Stephanie were talking about when we're talking about mentors, that you got to have a mentor that knows you, but also can know you very, very well, but also knows the way to see if you can get on. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get on with that mentor, or that mentor and you just don't gel, it's
It's so
more like
important.
it's
Yeah.
more like a is it going to be like an unhappy marriage, or is it going to be like is it going to work? I mean, especially when people's careers and all that sort of stuff there
Yeah.
is on the line and whatnot.
Yeah, and I never approach it like, oh, I don't want to sort of like stuff people into shapes, because
Yeah.
person is so individualistic, and each person, you have to take. I was saying that, like, the current one of my clients at the moment, we're so different, but then we work so well together. And so different industries and all of that, I'm able to sort of fulfill the goals that he's wanted. So yeah, so it's a really interesting question. Thanks for asking that, because and Stephanie's right, like in the mentor wise and all that, I get to know my clients really well.
Mm,
Like, I study them as well, and I want to learn about them and what, the nuances in the way
yes.
they think, what happens when not just what happens when things are going well, but what happens when things are not going well for them. What
Yes.
are the stresses that
Mm,
causes them to, like, behave in ways, because there's two
yes.
sides of us, right? So there's the effective style when
Mm-hmm.
everything's going your way, and then
Mm-hmm.
there is the stress behaviors when your environment and when things are not going well for you.
Yes.
So getting to know that.
I think that because I've known my mentor for nearly 9 years and whatnot. He was my university lecturer, and like he and he's very much very similar. Like he knows the ways to how I sort of think and all that sort of stuff there, because he sort of says there, you think very similarly to me at sometimes as well. So I think because we've known each other because he's known me for nearly that long, he
Mm,
knows sort of like my tells, and basically if something is going wrong and all that there. But also we can also have that personal conversation as well, because like he's like a father figure there to me and whatnot. So like I've known him for going on nearly 10 years. So yeah, so I think having a good mentor is very, very, very important. One I can't remember if I actually sort of asked this or whatnot, but I'm going to ask it. How do you
mhm.
in when you are wanting to go into transition, how do you know if it's time for a change? So how do you know? Is it, if you've worked there for, if you're in the same workplace for 3 years, and there's sometimes people there that are feeling bubbly with energy, but then when they try something new, they're like, oh wow, this is a brand new experience. I actually might like it, or whatnot. But how do you know when is it time for a change?
Yeah. Oh gosh, the signs, they can be very in different combinations as well, but
Yes.
usually it starts off with discomfort,
Okay.
right? Some sort. And I'll
Yep.
use that term sort of like generically. Like, the discomfort could be, you wake up and you go, meh, like, oh God,
Mm,
like, oh, here we go again. Right? That feeling that I have to do this again, that sort of, meh feeling. And then it can manifest itself to a bit of anxiety that I have to do this.
yes.
And then it can also be you sitting there one moment and you go, and you look at the people who are ahead of you and go, I can't, this was me. I cannot, I don't want to be them
Yep.
in 3-5 years time, right? Even if my career went super well, I don't want to be them. I don't like their lifestyle. I don't like what they're about, all that kind of stuff, right? So it can come up in very different ways, because it can come up with like just a knowing, a gut feel.
Yep.
But then as you sit with it, and you sit with it, it then can also become a little bit of that anxiety or panic attack as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it can be very strong. I've had people where they go, Natalie, got to get me out of here. Like, I'm having panic attacks waking up every day. I
So
don't
how?
want this anymore.
Oh wow. So when you do, so like, what would you sort of say to someone when you, if they were to, if you say, if they say something to you and you say, oh, these are they're starting to come across these sort of steps. I mean, like, obviously you don't want them to sort of say, oh, look, just quit your job straight away and just go straight into like a
No,
new
not at
thing there
all. No,
straight
no.
away. What would you sort of say to someone if you know they were talking to you and they said to you, and you sort of say this might be the first sign of of a potential for a change? How would you go about that?
Yeah, well, as a coach, we of course, for me, sometimes a lot of the conversations end up at the end of the analysis or what we do together,
Yep.
that no, you don't need to leave, and it's something
Mm.
else. And this is a thing, right? We
Yeah.
uncover things like that in coaching together. It might be other things going on in your life that's causing that, but you think it's this. And
Mm.
that's the power of coaching, because I listen, and I allow the person to unpack things as they go along,
Yep.
and I'll ask clarifying questions for them, and see what is really going on here. And of course, sometimes I've had severe cases as well, and I would then ask, and I would always say, I am not a psychologist, I am not a
Mm.
psychotherapist, and sometimes
Yes.
it's about, if I see any signs of mental health that is sort of causing that, then sometimes the conversation is, hey, I think you should seek additional support.
Mm.
Let's park the career and business side of things for the time being and work on that first. Can you see how transition
Yeah.
can be very, and that's why I've done a lot of mindset coaching, all that, to recognize all of that. And also I'm a mental health first aider as well. One of the things that I do, so I recognize the
Mm.
signs and some of these symptoms that you can witness and see. So the transition coaching is sometimes a lot more complicated than what people think.
Yeah.
It does not mean that I see them
Of
go,
course.
hey, here we go, we're going to do this and this, we're going to build your business, we're going to get rid of this job, blah, blah, blah. So all of that is part of the program, as we go to the root of
Mm.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And understand why that discomfort is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said their mental health because like that there's something there, I think, like if you are sort of transitioning, you know, like you are going into like a new job space, or if you are sort of wanting to start your own business, that there I think is going to take a massive toll on people's mental health, especially if you are like raising a family, or in or in your case at the time there, you were trying to redo a house and whatnot. So like for people there who are in that transitional sort of phase there, it really can sort of take a toll because because like they're taking a less of a paycheck, but they're and like working in startups there before, like it is a slugfest, like the hours are very, very long.
Yeah.
Pay, is very, pay at times can be, very, very minimal, but it's still, but at the end of the day, you are still learning, very, very great skills and whatnot. But it can also take a very, very big toll on someone's mental health. And that there's something there as to which, like, as you sort of touch based on that, like there's got to come a period of time where you just got to say, righto, put the career on hold, time to go and seek some help.
Yeah,
And that,
focus on yourself. Focus on
yes.
yourself. Get well,
Mm.
and really focus on looking after yourself and all that, because transitioning is a big task. It's not smooth sailing always. Like, you're going to get lots of rejection, and then other mindset
Yes.
stuff will come in. It will trigger other, sort of like emotions and things like that. And I also, part of me coaching others is also knowing their financial situation. And it's such a bonus that I'm an accountant, right? But
Mm.
and I've got a Notion playbook where I give people a bit of a formula around, you know, having enough of a buffer. Like make sure you've got 6 months worth of,
Yep.
you know, build a financial runway so that you can survive really well in 6 months if zero comes in. Right?
Yeah,
So
exactly,
things
exactly.
like that. And sometimes, you know, after talking to them, I would also say it's maybe not the right timing financially,
Yep.
right? You don't want people to, I don't even want people to pay for my coaching services if they're going to go out and get, you know, all these loans and stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly,
like
exactly.
there's limits to that.
Yeah,
Yes, maybe you can, you know, like max out the credit card a bit, but I want to make sure that, you know, like it's for the right, like make sure it's okay, right?
yeah, of
I would
course.
never say, oh, you know, keep going and push, and that's how you spend at the start. No, like you don't want to have that. You know, you want to help your clients to
Mm,
navigate as smoothly as possible. I've been down that road. I've been stressed before
yeah,
financially,
of course.
and I know that feeling.
Of course, and I think obviously, like right now, like after COVID and whatnot, we're still, you know, still in an economic bad point. So I mean, of course, it's still going to be something like this here that's going to be still going on for a few more years. And whatnot. I'm not going to get into that, but like, but as you can sort of see there, that the financial strains are still going to be there. So it's like
Yeah.
it's still going to be
Mm.
um uh it's still going to be like a talking point.
Yeah, and to be honest, having a role, a stable role, even if it's, and you know that you're not going to stay there forever, but a role that, you know, unless it's really toxic and awful, right?
Yep.
But if it's like just something that you can see yourself moving away from, you know, eventually, but having it there while you're building, getting some
Yep.
reps in, and building that muscle of being a business owner, a side hustle owner, whatever it is
Yep.
fantastic. And
There's
it's not about quitting,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I was just about to say there, as you said there, would that, as we're talking about with confidence, would that sort of build the confidence, knowing that you're sort of saying, oh yeah, look, you know what, I'm going to be here, you know, it's to me like it's going to be like short term, a year, 2 years
Yeah,
max or whatnot. Do
you build up that time frame. So it's not about being, it's not about putting your head in the sand and go, oh, you know, like I'm never going to let go.
yeah,
And I'm going to keep, you know, like, and never sort of like really do it in full swing as an entrepreneur, right? But you should know what's working for you. And as a coach, I will sort of nut out all the little areas
mm,
that could be holding you back from letting go, or is financially is okay, but your mindset is not allowing you to. So see,
mm,
that's where the coaching is amazing that way, because it allows me to really work with each individual case and just do a bit of probing and asking
yep,
to see what's going on. And it sometimes feels like it's one thing, and I dig a bit deeper, and it's like, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm good for like a whole year," you know, but I don't want to let go of this job, and then I'll say, you know, and we'll work through that again, and then we'll question, well, is it because, you know, is it a fear thing? Is it
mm,
you know, like self-doubt? It could be a number of things, or is it because you still don't mind what you do, and you could have two sources of income, and
yes,
you might reduce a day in your 9 to 5 or 2 days in your 9 to 5 and still be able to run this, you know, and see how you go and see which one. Yeah, so there's many ways to create what I call a portfolio career as
okay,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like as well as you sort of said there, I mean, like a portfolio career. I think that there I mean, like every time when I view when someone says a portfolio, I always view that as sort of like an assets and all that sort of stuff there, you know, like property portfolio or a share
yeah,
portfolio and whatnot. There, I hadn't actually sort of thought of a career portfolio, and it wasn't until when you sort of sent me the dossier and when I sort of saw their career portfolio, I was like that there had actually sort of actually I was like going. Oh. Like, and it wasn't until you just sort of mentioned that there that it really just sort of, as you sort of explained it as well, you know, I mean, like someone there might like their 9 to 5 and whatnot, but they might also want to try and do something like a side hustle or a
yeah.
small
Could be a
business and build it
contract.
up.
Could be a contract position that you show up 20 hours a week, or, you know, 12 hours a week, and it's a solid contract that
Yep.
is permanent, and then it allows you to use the rest of your time to build up not maybe 2 businesses. Doesn't even have to be one. If
Yeah.
you're financially okay and you've got the ideas and maybe the 2 businesses kind of work well together, go for it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, like for example, you can monetize from your podcasting and also have a coaching business. That is a portfolio career, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, when I started out, I was teaching Pilates and yoga while I was coaching. So then my week was very varied, and so you can see how it's not for everyone. Some
Mm.
people just love being in one thing.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and I think it would also add more to the week as well. You know, like it might make, I mean, for someone there, I don't know, for someone also like myself as well, you know, that would, you know, that likes, um, especially like on a weekend, doesn't know what the day is going to do on the weekend. So it's like, you know, adds a bit more of an excitement and all that there. So I think that there for like certain other people, because like there are people there that I know that, you know, prefer, that don't know what they're going to do, in regards to, you know, are they going to visit clients this day? Are they going to be doing
yeah,
this? Are they going to be doing this day? Or are they going to be doing other, or are they going to be doing something else the next day? Are they going to be doing their coaching, or they're going to be visiting their like other clients, or they're going to be working
yeah.
in their other businesses? So I think that it also can provide a lot more um stability, and also for certain people makes their week a lot more potentially enjoyable.
Yeah, and it comes down, like I was saying, the profiling, all of that. Make sure you are the right person for it. It's not for
Yes,
everyone. Everyone is so
of
different.
course.
And then it's a delicate balance with time,
Mm.
financials,
Yes.
interest. Goes back to all of that again, right? To make it
Yes.
work. Like I love doing more than one thing. Like I also have a styling business that I absolutely
Oh,
love,
wow.
creative. Yeah, that I spend a certain amount of time on it a week. Delegate some of it away as well, the admin side, all of that. So yeah, you have to work out what is it that you like. I'm very multi-passionate though, right? And a lot of people look at me and they go, "You're crazy," and
Yes.
but it gives me joy. That's the thing. It gives me joy that I'm able to create. So
Yeah, I mean, like the ways how you just sort of said that there. I mean, like I actually didn't know that about yours, about the styling side about
I
that
don't
there,
even
but
mention it in my dossier. I read
yeah,
some worlds differently. And if you're an
yeah,
investor, investing, right? If you
mm,
are studying portfolio investing, property investing, all of that, that is something that should be added to your portfolio career if it's what you enjoy and it's
mm,
the monetizing side of things for long-term
yeah,
investments. Good. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I think the ways to how I think the ways how you sort of said there with a career portfolio, it's almost, I don't want to sound like this here, but it can almost sort of be like your professional life portfolio, as another word to sort of put it at there, because it's like
Yeah.
because it's like it's got all your businesses, all your hustles, all your assets, basically everything there to what you sort of do, and in sort of one sort of portfolio and whatnot,
Yeah.
because you know, because you can add your investing portfolio, you can add your assets portfolio into
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm.
it's very interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
but that there's just something there, so which what just sort of brought to me with this part of the conversation and whatnot. But we are sort of getting close towards the end there, but because
Yeah.
and whatnot, because like I I have absolutely been enjoying this this part of the conversation. I've got to have you back on another time there as well, Natalie,
Oh, I'd
because
love to. Yeah.
and whatnot. But what I'll do is I will say what this is the part of the segment here where I allow my previous guest, which was Stephanie, to say the question that she's asked you in my previous episode, which was her question was, how do you know when your goals feel ignored, or how do you know when you are ignoring your goals, and what do your goals need to feel loved again?
Sort of along the lines of what we've talked about before, right?
Yes.
There are so many signs as well. Just say we pick some goals and then you start to procrastinate on some,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
right? You gotta dig a bit deeper and go, why am I procrastinating? What's going on? Right? Whenever you're not showing your goals any love, or you're not, and you stopped executing and actioning, there's a reason. Is it an external factor? Is something making it so hard that you feel like you're is it a giving up aspect? Is it a procrastination because you don't feel the goal anymore? you're like, it's not aligning anymore. And I'm questioning things, right? And so this is where your goal starts to fall apart a little bit, right? And so,
Yep.
but allow that flexibility to question everything, right? Why am I stopping? Is it again, go back to it. Is it because the procrastination is a big sign of why you don't want to do it, or you're disliking doing the, like I talk about the priorities and the strategic
Yes.
tasks. You're starting to dislike it in a massive way, but go a bit deeper. Are you disliking it because you find it really hard, and maybe you just need a bit of help from someone, a mentor,
Yep.
or a peer or a coach, and just talk it out, like unpack it? Or is it because you don't align with it anymore?
Have you ever felt that your goals needed to be loved again, or that you've sort of, in other words, not felt like that you've given them the love or attention that they sort of needed, and whatnot?
Yeah, of course. I think last year, was that last year, the year before? Yeah, last year I had a goal of really expanding my newsletter.
Yep.
And then halfway through, I didn't feel the love for it anymore, right? And then I had to go, am I doing this because I think everyone else is doing it? And that's why I thought it's cool, and because I love writing, which I do.
Yep.
But it wasn't for the right reasons. I think that's why I started to question it, or could be timing as well, because I was trying to grow my podcast and trying to do a few other things, and I let the main singers kind of come on board a little bit more, right? And so I had to unpack why that's the case, and then allow yourself to let it go if it doesn't align, if it's not for that particular year, calendar year, or 12 months or whatever. And like, don't delete it, but just like push it back into as a backup singer, and then revisit again down the track, and really go deep. And as to the second part of the question around how do you give it love again, go back to the drawing board, go back to basics, right? Go right back and ask yourself, do reflection. If you love journaling, journal it out, answer some questions you might have, and reprioritize things and all of that, and see. And once the thing about goals is, once you start actioning and you see it, you get wins quickly again on that goal.
Yeah.
Get very excited again, and hence, the love for it comes back in, and all of that. Yeah, it's all the dieting. You know what they talk about, yo dieting. About that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also about, like, as you just sort of said there, getting the little wins, I mean, like, in a sports analogy as well, like, even if your team is losing every single week and whatnot, you like to sort of see little improvements, like, if they're working more as a team, or if this player is doing something there, what they've worked at training, they're putting out in the field, like, you want to still see like those little wins as it progresses, and then focus on the bigger result later on and whatnot. So like that there is something there as to which, as you just sort of said there, go back to the drawing board and just rack up those little wins.
Yeah, I'll give an example about sports, actually. It's a few years back now. An A-grade cricket team, they had their goals, and it just wasn't quite, gelling and all that kind of stuff. Individually, they were so talented, right? Young, talented, but yet, in the moment of stress on the field and all that, things individually kind of fell apart. And when that happens, the team kind of falls apart, right? So they kind of really, like, they lost the love for the one particular goal, but they went back to the drawing board and go, how can we do this differently? And then they engaged me pre-season to go in and do a team profile on them. And then, this is little old me who never played a whole professional cricket match, right? But it doesn't matter. I really studied it. I really studied cricket, but not just from not like from a playing perspective, but like the mindset side of things and all of the mental side of things. And so we did some profiling together, and we worked out why this happens when someone like didn't get what they want on field, what throwing a tantrum, what I call it stress behaviors, right? What that looked like, and how that impacted the whole team and all of that. And it was a great season. So there you go. So sometimes the goals can be unloved if you go back to the drawing board, give it reflection, give it a whole new spin, For
Yep.
example, pulling me into it is something they've never done before. But
Yep.
they said, let's give it a go, right?
Mm.
Let's do some profiling for each of our team member pre-season and see what it gives us.
And hey, and it worked and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
but now what I'll do is I'll let you say your question for what you want to say for my next guest. So, so you've answered Stephanie's question. Now, what is the question there that you want me to pass on to my next guest?
Awesome. All right. It's a little bit different. Can I ask two questions? But they're
Yeah,
small ones. They're small ones,
yeah. Go
and
ahead.
they're not
Go
going to
ahead.
be. And maybe they can pick as well.
Yep. Go
The
ahead.
first one is what have you actually said no to that not say yes to? What have you actually said no to that you've been that has really and how has that impacted your life?
Ooh. So, what have you said no to, and how has that impacted your life?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, this is
But
actually
not,
gonna,
yeah.
yeah, this is actually, oh man, I mean, I tell you what, this is actually like a rolling doors sort of moment there because like there are tons of things there that people can say there that they have said no to. I mean, like it could even be just sort of something simple as sort of, well, not as simple as sort of saying no, I didn't go for this position, or I didn't go for, somewhere else, or I
Yeah.
didn't start my own business, or it could even be something as left field as sort of saying that I didn't ask my girlfriend at the time to marry me and whatnot, and she,
Yeah.
broke up with me and whatnot. So
Yeah.
wow, this question, wow, this one here, actually, I'm actually excited to actually hear what the answer is.
Yeah.
So
Yes. I want to ask
what?
that person. What have they said no to?
Yep.
And how has that how has that impacted their life from that? And if they don't like that question, you maybe can ask. And I
Okay.
have another question that I was just sitting down the other day, and I in this age with AI and the digital world and social media and all that kind of stuff, the other question is, what are their thoughts on gatekeeping?
Gatekeeping.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah. All
Thoughts
right.
on gatekeeping.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Everyone's
Yeah.
got their own
Okay.
opinion on that. So yeah, maybe you can offer that to your guests, or maybe if you you can add one of that in as a normal.
Yeah, all right then. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to sort of see about that there, because that there's gonna, like, to be honest, I actually think that there probably would be very, very interesting to actually talk about. I think I probably, depending on who my next guest
Yeah,
will be,
yeah, I'll leave it to you to pick. Because some
that'll
people are like,
probably be a half an hour.
I share everything, I'm
Yeah.
value driven, blah blah. And like what, in this day and age, you might have a view on gatekeeping. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could sort of depend on the person as to who I'm getting, because depending on the person, it could go for 30 minutes. So and
I
whatnot, because
love it. I love it.
there's a very, very interesting question. I like both of them, so I'm going to definitely ask both those questions, whatnot, because that's the way how I like to do it, and whatnot. So, but that sort of wraps up our conversation there, Natalie. Thank you again for agreeing to come on. I'll have to have you back on later on in the year, because literally as we were talking throughout, because as we were talking throughout this year, I had a list of questions. We only got through about a bit of them, because
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
the conversation was just so good and whatnot. So I'll have to have you back on so we can keep talking in that conversation. And thanks again for agreeing to come on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kieran. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm so excited to hear the episode, as well as the comeback, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. And that there concludes the episode.